Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris,
And I'm Chelsea.
and today we're going to be talking about week 18 of the NFL season. This week was crazy. It made no sense. People were confused. People were heartbroken. Steelers fans were terrified of a tie. I mean, we had it all this weekend. So we just want to talk about that and then go into the upcoming wild card weekend. Chelsea, how are you doing today?
Still mourning, but outside of that, doing well.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for you. Let's just go ahead and dive into the grief.
I'm so sorry for me too.
Let's go ahead and get right into it. I think you and Pat McAfee felt the same grief this weekend.
He just cursed more than I did.
That's fair. So, Chelsea, what did you think about the Colts versus Jaguars? This game, just as context for those who may not know, Colts needed to win this game to make the playoffs against the Jaguars, probably the worst team or one of the worst. They are competing to be the worst. I don't know. They were pretty bad this year. Chelsea, what do you think of this?
I'll tell you what I think. I think that was the most pathetic showing from the Colts I may have ever seen in my entire life. That's what I think.
Dang. Care to elaborate more?
The only thing you had to do was beat a 2-14 team who doesn't have a head coach. That's all you had to do. And they got clobbered. That's all I have to say.
Dang. I was expecting a rant, to be honest with you. There's just nothing more to rant about.
Nah, honestly, people, I think Colts are some of the most fair weather fans in the entire league. You get on the Colts Reddit on Sunday, literally a good thing will happen and 200 people will be like, yeah. And then a bad thing will happen and they'll be like, fire Frank Reich. And I'm just like, what? You realize that a football game is a game of ups and downs. It doesn't always go up. You have to go down eventually, That's just logical. But as disappointing as this game was, the Colts should not have been in this situation to begin with, if we're being brutally honest. Last week, the Colts could have made it in if they could have beat the Raiders. They lost by 3, which we should have beat the Raiders because the Raiders are really not that good. And somehow they're still in the playoffs because of the expanded bracket, right? So the Colts should have been in last week, and this week shouldn't have mattered, right? And then there were between 3 and 5 games during the course of the year that the Colts either lost by 1-score leads or that they blew away. Like the Bucs game, should have won that. The Ravens game, should have won that. At least one of the Tennessee Titan games should have won that. Raiders should have won that. So really, we shouldn't have been in this situation to begin with at all. Now, if you know anything about the Colts and the Jaguars, you're thinking to yourself, could you get a more boring NFL matchup? Well, you can, because let me tell you, the Indianapolis Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014. Think about that for a second. That's when we had Andrew Luck. In 2014, Andrew Luck could not take down the Jaguars. Phillip Rivers could not take down the Jaguars. Jacoby Brissett could not take down the Jaguars, and neither could Carson Wentz. So really the pattern just continues. But it's just annoying. Like, losing this game was utterly embarrassing, but personally, even more embarrassing, I don't think we should have been in the situation to begin with. And because we couldn't close out games, we were. And that ended up just dooming us because we just couldn't be consistent during the season. Like, the Colts had 7 Pro Bowlers. Most in the league missed the playoffs. The all-pro roster is just released today, right? Somehow Quentin Nelson didn't make it, which is just ridiculously stupid to me. But Jonathan Taylor made it, right? Our long snapper made it. Darius Leonard made it. 3 Pro Bowlers were not in the playoffs. Or 3 All-Pros, not in the playoffs. 7 Pro Bowlers, not in the playoffs. One of the best GMs in the entire league, not in the playoffs. It's just disappointing. Like, we should be in the playoffs. But because of our incompetencies with trying to close out games, we aren't. And that's probably the issue that plagues this team the most, is just playing hard and consistently for 4 quarters. Not that I think that they give up in the second half, even though sometimes it looks like it. I don't think that they actually do. But you have to be consistent. I mean, if you want to win in the league, you pretty much have to score every quarter. You go an entire half without scoring. I mean, what do you expect to do? Like, you mount a furious comeback, just like Andrew Luck did for all of those years that we had him, somehow win. But like, you shouldn't be putting yourself in a situation to have to do that. If you play consistently, you close out games. I mean, there was one point during the season, if we would have closed out games, we would have been like 12-5. Like, we would have won 1-score games or not blown games. We would have had at least 12 wins, which would have put us first in the AFC. So if we could have just done that, we could have arguably been the 1 seed, had the bye, and played whoever was the worst in our first game. So it's just disappointing. And on top of it, we don't have a first-round pick, and we don't make the playoffs. Got to shout out the Jaguars fans, though. Not only did you beat the Colts at home while you were all dressed like clowns, and yet we were still the clown. You're the first pick in the draft. So not only did you beat us, you still maintain the first pick in the entire league, which just makes me even more sad. The owner and the GM did their end of the year press conferences, and the owner, Jim Irsay, was not happy at all. He said that Frank Reich and Chris Ballard were safe, that they weren't going to get fired, which makes sense. I mean, they both got signed to like 5-year contract last year. So you're not going to do that. But he's not happy. And he said that there were going to be changes coming, which you don't really hear that often from Jim Irsay. I mean, the league pretty much knows at this point that the Colts primarily build their team through the draft. They don't go out and spend huge amounts of money on veterans. It's just not how our ownership does. And for the most part, it's worked out pretty well. I mean, not signing older veteran guys who inevitably get hurt or only last a year or underperform. Like, I'd rather spend that money on people who deserve it, not someone that is just a Band-Aid for a year, right? Which we did for the most part outside of Eric Fisher, who honestly was not that good if you actually look at his stats for the year, which was disappointing. Probably about half of Carson Wentz's fumbles came from his blind side not being blocked, which was Eric Fisher. So that was definitely disappointing. But it'll be interesting to see what the Colts do in the offseason. Chris Ballard, the GM, had his presser as well, and he did not fully commit to Carson Wentz in the presser, which was fascinating. He also said that he liked our wide receiver room, which I very much disagree with, because we only had one other guy above like 400 yards who was not Michael Pittman. So I disagree with that. But the fact that he did not 100% commit to Carson Wentz was fascinating. So it'll definitely be interesting. I mean, the game was just bad. Wentz was bad. Receivers were bad. Line was bad. Defense was bad. The best part of the team was Jonathan Taylor, and he only had 75 yards, which is a bad day for Jonathan Taylor. So, I mean, everyone just underperformed. To blame, the loss on one guy is just ridiculous, in my opinion, because it's a team sport. You can't ever do that. There are always moments during the game that guy is not involved in that change the course of the game. So to completely blame it on Carson Wentz is foolish, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, he definitely played a large part, but I don't think that the entire loss was on him. He didn't play well. But I mean, as a Colts fan, if you're looking at Carson Wentz and you're going, get Carson Wentz out. Okay, you want to get Carson Wentz out? Tell me who we have to replace him. You want to put Sam Ellinger in? All right, that's fine. He could be good or not because he's never played before. You want to go to free agency? Okay, cool. Who's your best option? Teddy Bridgewater, who is worse than Carson Wentz. You want to trade for someone really good like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson? Okay, cool. Oh, wait, we don't have any trade capital this year because we traded away our first and third round picks. So, really, there's not really much wiggle room. I think it's pretty much inevitable that Carson Wentz is going to be the starter again next year unless Sam Ehlinger makes some crazy leap and just beats him out in camp. But I mean, that's kind of what I think. What do you think, Chris?
So I think this game, I mean, yes, the Colts needed to win this game. I think that I really thought that they would make the playoffs. I know they hadn't beat Jacksonville, but I was like, okay, this is the time to do it. I think that the Colts, I mean, Jacksonville just came out, knew they had nothing to lose and everything to play for. They just wanted to go spoil a division rival's chances at a playoff spot. And that's what they did. I mean, Wentz, he played bad. The line was bad. Like you said, everything was just not good in this game. The Colts really just kind of fell apart here. And, I agree. Like, they had chances before this to clinch a playoff spot. But I think the Colts, had a chance to be something this year. They had a chance, like they were making that turnaround. Yes, they started out rough, but I think they really had a chance to kind of turn things around, and it looked like they were. Remember, they beat the Patriots, and we were all like, okay, this could be a legit team. And
they beat the Cardinals.
Yeah, beat the Cardinals. Half their team. Exactly. Like we were like, hey, this is a team that can win football games. But they just couldn't close it out, like you said. I really think they're gonna have to stop starting 1-4 and 1-5, or they're just gonna have to turn it around earlier, get that momentum built from the start of the season, so you don't have to wait till week 18 to clinch a playoff spot. Not saying they're the only team that had to do that. Obviously, there were a few teams that had to, but I don't think any team's goal in the year, and probably not theirs, was to hopefully make a playoff spot in the last game of the year. So I think this was a rough game. If you want any bright spots, I know this isn't a bright spot for you necessarily, but hey, Trevor Lawrence, as rough of a year as he's had, actually played pretty well. He was looking good. So that's like a positive sign for Jacksonville fans, because
which I'm not salty about.
Yeah.
Like, I would have rather him had a good game and lost, obviously.
Yes.
But I mean, I've said all year, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is bad. I think he's stuck on a crap team with no coach and a bad owner, and he went out and performed against an above average defense. So I hope that Trevor Lawrence doubters look at that and go, okay, this man beat out DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard and Kenny Moore. And, there are some big names on that defense. So it was honestly nice to see him go out and be confident. Even as a Colts fan, I mean, I can't root against Trevor Lawrence. I can root against him when he's playing my team, obviously, but I don't want to see him fail,
Exactly. So I think it was props to him for that. And I don't know. We'll see what the Colts do in the off season and see what kind of changes that they make. I think it could be an interesting off season for you guys. And, we'll be here to cover it.
Hopefully we sign a wide receiver too.
Yeah. But let's go on to our next topic here. We've got the Raiders and Chargers game.
Man.
So this was pretty crazy. So basically, for those who may not know, this winner of this game was going to make the playoffs. But because the Colts lost to the Jaguars, the Steelers, or between the Steelers and Ravens, the winner of that game had a chance, as long as I believe one of these two teams lost. So let's say, so in this case, what happened was the Steelers beat the Ravens in a very close game at that. Colts did lose to the Jaguars. Now Steelers fans just are like, we're in. All that we have to do is see a team lose this game and we're in. And in 99% of NFL games that happens, because like how many ties happen per year? Like one tie happens like per year.
If that.
Exactly. So I'm just like, okay, you know what? They've got to, rightfully so, Steelers fans are like, we have a good shot at making this. And then the game happens. And then it was just a wild, crazy game. I mean, for some reason, the Chargers went for it on their own 20-yard line on 4th and
That
like
was
one.
just
That
dumb.
they were like analytics. I'm like, analytics don't take into context of situations though. When coaches scream analytics, I'm like, okay, I can say,
Scream back, situational football.
situational football. Like that doesn't take into account, your matchups. It doesn't take into account a lot of things. So I'm kind of like, I understand that coaches want to go with those advanced analytics, and that's fine. But I just don't think that in that situation that was a good idea. You're down like 3 points, and they were lucky the Raiders ended up only getting a field goal out of that.
That
But
might have been the
yeah.
dumbest coaching decision that I had ever seen in my life, which is saying something.
But was it worse than the timeout? No, oh no. Okay, we won't. Wait, what are you
You're
thinking?
You're gonna talk
here?
about that fake punt.
I'm gonna
reach through this screen and hit you.
I could have there. I was like, was it dumber than that? But
maybe not. Okay, maybe second worst.
But so this game goes into overtime because, of course, it does. Justin Herbert makes some miraculous plays. Yeah, he makes some miraculous plays to put them in overtime, converts several 4th downs on the drive to tie the game.
It was a very impressive drive.
Oh, yeah,
from Herbert.
Incredible. But basically, no, there were a couple field goals in overtime. And then as the Raiders were driving to try and win the game, which they were trying to win, like they said, they were trying to win the game, but it would have been much harder. And they probably would have thought about maybe taking a knee in a situation earlier, because basically Raiders were on 3rd down and they were in Charger territory, but it was on the further end, just past the 50. So it would have been a tough field goal. It would have been a very long field goal. And they have a good kicker, but then the Chargers call a timeout. Raiders fans and Chargers fans were a little bit like, well, why did they do that? It looked like the Raiders were potentially playing to tie the game, because if they tie the game, both teams make the playoffs.
Which is just crazy that scenario even existed.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Chargers coach says that he called a timeout to set, because he thought he saw something and wanted to set his defense to be prepared for the run. Okay, but then the next play, it all went wrong. The Raiders changed their formation, and they just ran it up for a 1st down easier than they probably would have if you didn't call the timeout. I'm like, so you called a timeout, and then you didn't even prep the defense right. And it didn't work. I mean, I guess that's just the NFL. Sometimes things just don't work. But I'm like, you called a whole timeout to call that play, to stop a simple run up the middle, and it didn't work. So then, of course, the Raiders they kick it. Derek Carr is looking right before the kick. He's like, oh yeah, we won this baby. There's just like a confidence when they called that last time out and he's walking over to the sideline. He's like, oh yeah, we won the game. But so the Raiders kick the field goal, and to the Steelers fans' sigh of relief, they make it. Now the Steelers are in the playoffs. Somehow they have fumbled and bumbled their way into a playoff spot, and the Chargers,
they do not deserve to be there.
Look, they did what they had to, and the Chargers, I think, should have been in, but they didn't deserve it because they lost too many games. I'm like, look.
But did you see that interview Ben Roethlisberger did?
Yeah.
He literally said they were the worst team and that they're just there to have fun. All the comments were like, this man's ready to retire.
I think this
Watch
man's
them
just
beat the Chiefs just for fun.
Yeah.
Just cause. Why not?
I mean, look, the Steelers have found a way to just get bailed out. High-end talent, baby. High-end talent.
I have never seen a team get bailed out so many times.
Literally, TJ Watt is carrying that team, right?
Did you see that the Steelers contacted the NFL and tried to argue that Watt got another sack so that he could beat Strahan, and the NFL denied it? That is the height of petty right there.
Look, why not?
He was not even close to having another one. Like, come on.
Hey, why not call about it?
That's
what's
so
the reason?
petty.
It's not petty. It's just like,
It
why
is
not?
petty.
It's
You
just like,
already know
hey,
you didn't, and you're calling anyways to see if you can pull favor. Like, come on, don't be
look,
petty.
why not? But anyways, this game was wild. It was filled with everything. Something about Raiders games. Can we talk about the first week of the season? We had a crazy Monday night game. Then on
Yep.
Thanksgiving, we had a crazy Cowboys Raiders game. And then
Yep.
on the last regular season game of the year, we have another crazy Raiders game. I'm like,
Yep.
somehow these Vegas Raiders know how to put on like theater. Like they know how to
Well,
put
they
on
are in
like a
Las
show.
Vegas.
Exactly. I think it has to be rigged. I mean, there's no other way, right?
It's obviously rigged.
Oh my gosh. But anyways, so Chelsea, what did you think of this whole situation, honestly?
Well, I think if you're going to give MVP to someone on the Raiders, you give it to Daniel Carlson because that dude has literally carried the Raiders the entire year.
On his foot.
Yes. I mean, he's really good. Like, remember like the Auburn game where he made like a how long? It was like 60 something yard field goal to beat
Dang.
Alabama. And the world was like, ah. And then he was like, ah,
Just like
he's a
that,
really good
actually.
kicker. Yeah. But I cannot imagine a worse way to miss the playoffs than if a team kneels for a tie. Like me missing the playoffs because my team lost. Like, is that painful? Obviously. But is it as painful as losing to a tie? I would argue no. I don't think it can get it any worse than that.
I mean, honestly, I know Steelers fans were apparently like dying, but and they were
Mm-hmm.
like, there is no way this actually ends in a tie. There is
But
no
like,
way.
imagine if it had. That might be the only time that ever happens, ever.
We and I mean, yeah, it was absolutely insane. So either way, I'll be interested to see this Raiders team. I want to see what kind of dramatic ending they have to their season. I mean, is it going to be colossal
You mean
failure?
a Super Bowl win?
Are they going to win the freaking Super Bowl? I don't know, man. Like it would be one heck of a story if they. I'm being honest. If the Raiders won the Super Bowl, you have to make a movie about them. If we're making a
Oh,
movie about Kurt
absolutely.
Warner and that team, like you have to make a movie about this team. It has had so much crap happen and so many wild things. And also, whoever the interim coach is, I'm sorry, I don't know their name, hire that person because literally they have
Absolutely.
the strongest case to be returning for next year. They'll be like,
Heck,
look,
give him coach of the year. I mean, he kind of deserves it. I mean, Ruggs gets arrested. Arnett gets let go. They have another rookie who's arrested on a DUI after the Colts game. John Gruden gets fired. Like, give the dude coach of the year. He somehow got this ragtag team of Raiders to the playoffs. Like, give the dude coach of the year. Seriously.
man made Hunter Renfro a good receiver, not saying he's bad, but he made Hunter Renfro look better this year than
And Zay
DK
Jones.
Metcalf.
And Zay Jones, who, by the way, played at Eastern Carolina. Shout out to the Pirates.
That's just crazy. So, anyways, now that we're done with the coach of the year talk for the Raiders, but it could, I wouldn't,
It's feasible.
it's actually feasible, not going to lie. But let's go on to kind of the last topic we've got here for before we get into our wild card weekend picks. So the 49ers also clinched a playoff berth this past week against the Cowboys, or to face off against the Cowboys in the wild card. And they were playing the Eagles. They won 17-11. Eagles rested Jalen Hurts. They're already in, so they're not worried about it. And yeah, I mean, the 49ers are in. They were competing with the Saints. And I think that, I mean, I think the 49ers, just doing what they had to do, it was impressive. Impressive. I'm so sorry, by the way. I completely messed up. They played the Rams. I remember. I was looking at something wrong. I apologize. They played the Rams and they beat them 27-24. The Rams are weird because on one hand, I was like, man, this could be a Super Bowl team.
They should be.
And then, I mean, they like are, but they're just not consistent enough.
But
And
they
that's the
should
problem.
unarguably be a contender. And yet somehow they're making it so that they aren't unarguably a contender.
Do you think a
Like,
lot
what
of
are you
that
doing, Rams?
is like riding? Do you think a lot of that is riding on Matt Stafford? Like, do you think he's what's capping the team? I mean, on one hand, they have so much talent everywhere. Like, if you have a good quarterback, they should be succeeding and doing a very good job. But, I don't, obviously, it's never always on one person. But I don't know, Chelsea, what do you think? Like, is he capping this team's skill level? Like, where they can go?
I think it's a combination of 5 things. Number 1, Matthew Stafford is throwing way too many interceptions for how good he is. Like, the dude should not be having 2 and 3 interception games. He's a lot better than that. He has a lot better team around him. So that is on him. That's number 1. Number 2, I think that losing Robert Woods to a season-ending injury was a lot bigger than most NFL fans are willing to acknowledge. Like, yes, did they go out and get Odell? And is he a contributor now? Absolutely. But Robert Woods knows that offense inside and out. He perfectly complemented Cooper Kupp, right? So they bring in a suitable replacement. He does well. But Robert Woods is a really big part of that offense. And I think that they are missing him more than they are willing to admit, especially Matthew Stafford. Number 3, they have a very inconsistent running game. I believe Sony Michel had like 22 rushes for like 45 yards or something, averaging like 2 yards a carry. That is not good. But again, losing Cam Akers, I've been saying all year, was a huge loss for them because Cam Akers is a really good, really underrated young running back in the league. And does he have a chance to come back? Yes, he does. And could he be, the bell cow again and carry everything? Absolutely. But losing him was huge. You lost that consistency. More pressure was put on Matthew Stafford. And honestly, Matthew Stafford kind of folded, at least if you look at the interceptions. Like, he should not have as many as he has, right? So that's 3. Stafford, Woods, running game. Number 4, the defense is underperforming. You look at this defense, they should unarguably be the best defense in the league with all of the people that they have on it. But they're just not playing like a team, which goes into point number 5. They have so many stars on this team that have been added over the course of the year that they haven't had time to develop team chemistry. Why is the Raiders defense giving up 27 points to the 49ers, whose quarterback has a torn ligament in his thumb and he throws 2 interceptions and they still win? You're telling me that the defense forced 2 interceptions against a mediocre quarterback with a broken thumb and somehow his team still won? You can't put that on Stafford. You should not be giving up 27 points to Jimmy Garoppolo. You just shouldn't. So, I mean, I think it's a combination of things. It'll definitely be interesting to see them in the playoffs because I think that they have the capability to go places. Like, they have a decent team. It'll just be a matter of, are they going to? Beginning of the year, I thought that they were Super Bowl contenders. If they play up to their capacity, I think they still are. If they play mediocre, I don't think they're going to win. If they go into Lambeau in the snow against Aaron Rodgers, I don't think they win.
All right, there you have it. I mean, that's fair. They've had a lot of, unfortunate things happen to them, but also they have so much star power. You'd think this team would be rolling better than they are and not losing to the 49ers in the last week.
They just have injury issues.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even during the game, they lost like 2 starting secondary guys as well. So they literally went and re-signed Eric Weddle, who retired multiple years ago, to come back and play while people are recovering, assuming that they make it through the first round. Like, that's just sad.
Happy
like,
for
injuries
Eric
have
Weddle,
played
though.
a huge role. That's true. Really happy for that guy, honestly. But injuries have played a huge role on this team, and so has team chemistry and poor decision making. Those are probably the 3 biggest things that are plaguing them right now. If they can solve 2 of 3 of those, I think they can go places. But I still don't think they beat Rodgers in the snow, personally.
They may not even beat Tampa. I mean, they did beat, So I don't know. They did beat them once, but we'll see what happens there. And who knows what's going to happen with Tampa. But there you have it. I mean, we've got three of the biggest stories of this weekend. Crazy weekend overall. I mean, good for the 49ers getting it back on track. I don't think people were quite sure how they were going to do this year, but they got it back on track after last year, and maybe they can make some noise. I don't personally think they'll go very far, but we'll actually get into our picks right now. So let's go ahead and get to it. So you got the Raiders at Bengals. So I'm going to go with the Raiders on this one just because they've had such a dramatic season. Like, why not? Why not win a playoff game? Why not go make a run? They have the talent to do it. I think Derek Carr is just going to have to play. He's going to have to play well. He's going to have to be consistent. He cannot be turning the ball over. He may not have to be Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, or something like that, but he just has to play well enough. He cannot make mistakes. And the Raiders are going to have to force Joe Burrow to make mistakes. He's thrown a lot of picks this year. He's gotten better over time, but he has thrown a lot. So you've got to force him into that again. You've got to put the pressure on the Bengals, you've got to make or break them. So that's what I think is going to have to happen if the Raiders are going to win. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with them. So Chelsea, what do you think?
Normally, I'd say the argument of why not for a team to win a game is a bad argument, but I honestly think it's a suitable argument for this Raiders team after everything they've been through. And it would not surprise me if the Raiders did win just because of how crazy this year is. But I personally am going to pick the Bengals. I think that they have a better overall team. I think that they're absolutely stacked on offense. I think defensively is where you're probably going to see them lacking a little bit, especially if Renfrow and Jones get going. But offensively, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm going to take Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon over Hunter Renfrow and Zay Jones. I mean, no disrespect, obviously, because they're really good players. But I would argue that the Bengals have one of the best receiving cores in the entire league, and they are playing at home as well. So I do think that the Bengals are going to pull this one out.
All right. Well, there you have it for that game. So let's go on to the next game. We've got Patriots at Bills. I'm going to go with the Bills on this one. I know the Patriots and Bills have split the season, but in that first game, the wind was so bad and Mac Jones only threw it 4 times. And the Bills are very reliant on their passing game, not their run game. And the Patriots, they play slow. They're pretty balanced, but they won't ask Mac Jones to throw the ball a lot. So I think that game really worked in their favor. And then when they played the next time, the Bills kind of slaughtered them. So I'm going to go with the Bills on this one. Chelsea, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bills as well, specifically because it's at Buffalo. I think if it was in New England, the Patriots may have a little bit of an edge, especially because that would help Mac Jones feel more comfortable. But it's in Buffalo. If it snows again, the Bills' running game has gotten progressively better as the year has gone on. They finally seem to have gotten Singletary going, which is good for them because they need a true running back one because they haven't really had one for a few years. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bills. I think that Josh Allen is going to make a classic Josh Allen mistake that he should not make, but will make anyways. But I don't think that it'll be enough for the Patriots to win. Like, I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I don't think the Patriots will win. I think it'll be the Bills.
All right. Next, we've got Eagles at Bucks. I'm going to go with the Bucks on this. I just think they're a better team overall. There's more talent, better coaching. Not to say the Eagles are terrible, and it is the NFL, so anything can happen. And the Bucks are short on wide receiver right now. So
and running back.
Exactly. So I'm still going to go with the Bucks. It's at home for them. They are a Super Bowl team. They've won it last year. They've got the experience, a lot of the same guys. And so, yeah, I think the Eagles take this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bucks as well.
The Bucks take this one. My bad.
Oh, so you're changing your vote? Is that what I'm hearing?
Get out of here.
Anyways, I am going to go with the Bucks as well. The Bucks need this game as a confidence booster. With all of the injuries that they are dealing with on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball, especially the offensive, though, they need a strong showing against the Eagles to gain their confidence back because they don't have Godwin. They don't have AB. I mean, I know Mike Evans played last week, but I know earlier, a few weeks ago, he was struggling with a hamstring, I believe it was. And hamstrings are very hard to recover from in a very short amount of time. So they need a strong showing. Like, I obviously think that they are good enough to beat the Eagles. No disrespect to the Eagles. Like, I think that they're an up and coming team with some good pieces on offense. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to take Tom Brady, especially at home.
All right. The next game we've got 49ers at Cowboys. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. They have a good balanced offense when it works, because sometimes they have been inconsistent, but that's also been the NFL this year. There has been no true one dominant team. And I think, though, that the Cowboys are going to get this game done against the 49ers and move on to the second round of the playoffs. But the Cowboys have had spectacular fails in the playoffs before, so would not surprise me. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Cowboys on this one.
So I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to pick the 49ers. I know it's in Dallas, which will be tough, but I think the 49ers want it. You know, they worked really hard to get to the playoffs. The Cowboys, they pretty much had the NFC East locked up after week 12 or week 14. Not that they didn't work hard to get to the playoffs, but the Cowboys just aren't consistent. They're one of those teams, just like some other teams that are in the league that are really good, like the Rams. Like, they have the roster to be consistent every single week. They have stars on offense. They have stars on defense. They have a little bit of a questionable coach sometimes, but I think generally speaking, he's fine for the most part. Dak Prescott is going to have to play well if they want to win this game, because the 49ers have a pretty good front seven. I mean, they have Nick Bosa and they have some other guys on there that are pretty good. I don't think it will be a blowout by any stretch, but I don't know. I think that the Cowboys' inconsistencies are going to show up again, because as we've seen over the past few years, it just kind of always seems to plague them, right? They get to the playoffs, they're feeling really confident, and then they just lay an egg, right? And that's just kind of how it's been. So I'm going to take that bet again. I got the 49ers.
All right. Next, we've got Steelers at Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Chiefs on this one. The Steelers have made their way there. And wouldn't it be something if they won this game?
It would be.
Because, I mean, but the Chiefs did blow out the Steelers. They beat them pretty bad in the regular season not too long ago. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the proof that I'm going off of. But I mean, it's also the NFL. There could be some crazy thing that happens where the Steelers win this, but I do think the Chiefs are the better team and that they will be moving on to the second round.
Yeah, I have the Chiefs as well, because as I said earlier, Ben Roethlisberger thinks that they're the worst team in the AFC. And not that they won't try to win, because obviously they will. But I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is scared of the Steelers defense, no matter if they have TJ Watt or Minkah Fitzpatrick or whatever. I still don't think he's scared of them. I have the Chiefs. I would be very surprised if the Chiefs lose this game. But like Chris was saying, it is a crazy year. It could happen. Who knows? They could tie. I don't know. But I'm still going to go with the Chiefs.
All right. And then our last game of Super Wild Card Weekend is the Cardinals at Rams. And so I'm going to go with the Rams on this one, because the Cardinals looked like the best team in the NFL. They looked like that dominant team, and they have just not. They've been kind of sus, you know? I mean, they've won a few games, like they've beaten the Cowboys. They've done what they've needed to do to be here. So it's not like they can't play, obviously, but really from the way they started to the way they've ended, I mean, it's been rough.
Kind of reminiscent of the Steelers last year. started out really strong and then just kind of fell off at the end of the year.
Yeah, like I don't think that they're terrible now, but it's like, they've made it in, and that's all that matters. You've made it at this point. Doesn't matter anymore what happened. Everyone's 0-0 now. But I think the Rams, even though they have struggled, even though they've been the way that they are and have been this year, I think that they take this game over the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Rams too, even with their current inconsistencies. I'm going to take them. Primary reason why I picked the Rams is because the Cardinals don't have DeAndre Hopkins, who is the linchpin of their offense outside of Kyler Murray. Not having him has obviously hurt the Cardinals as he is a humongous part of their offense. I don't think the Cardinals are a bad team, obviously. I mean, they deserve to be in the playoffs, but they've fallen off at the end of the year. And I mean, it's at the Rams. So I don't foresee the Cardinals going into LA and beating the Rams.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's our picks for this weekend. And I think that's going to wrap up this episode. So, Chelsea, do you want to go ahead and give us our outro?
Yep, let's go. So thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in next week for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at _LC football _ and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Launch Codes Football. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.